Wednesday. This week is about for-profit colleges, just like Jersey College of Nursing. From my research, for-profit colleges operate differently from public colleges or traditional nonprofit universities because their primary business model is built around tuition revenue, enrollment growth, and maintaining programs that can continue operating financially. That does not automatically mean every decision is improper, but it does create certain incentives that critics often examine. So it made me question, who's really the one benefiting from these for-profit universities, colleges? So I followed the incentive structure. I followed the money. The question nobody wants to ask is, who benefited from keeping students enrolled, paying tuition, and chasing a finish line maybe that they were never allowed to cross? These are questions I ask. If the exit exam was truly about protecting nursing students, why did the policy change when the Board of Nursing said schools can no longer use it as a barrier? If the exit exam was truly about protecting nursing students, why did the policy change when the Board of Nursing said and drew a hard line in their stance on these exit exams, preventing qualified nursing students from taking their NCLEX? Why does it appear to always affect the most vulnerable of students? So I wonder, do for-profit colleges target specific demographics? When you go into the interview and you write on the paperwork, maybe what your race is, how old you are, if you're a single mom, what your background is, what your lifestyle is, like what your background is, your past. You go over the important pieces of your life so they can almost get to know you, is what it feels like. Because I question the placement and operation of for-profit schools in non-traditional settings, like strip malls, for example. I attended Jersey College of Nursing in Ewing, New Jersey, and it was in a strip mall. It was in a shopping center. Settings like strip malls is a documented strategy often criticized for its impact on minority and low-income communities. Critics argue. From my research, critics argue placement and the operation of for-profit schools in non-traditional settings like strip malls is a documented strategy that is often criticized for its impact on minority and low-income communities. Welcome back to the Nursing Investigation. Before I ever became a plaintiff, I was just a nursing student, but it made me wonder, who exactly is Jersey College? Now, what exactly is a for-profit nursing school? Where did it come from? Who funded it? Who founded it? And how did nursing school grow into a multi-state institution? From my research, Jersey College wasn't always Jersey College. It began in 2003 as the Center for Allied Health and Nursing Education in Hackensack, New Jersey. According to the college, founder Greg Karshevsky created the school because his family's home healthcare business needed more highly trained nurses to care for medically fragile children. In 2004, the New Jersey Board of Nursing approved its practical nursing program, and within a few years, the institution expanded beyond New Jersey. Over the next 2 decades, Jersey College grew rapidly. It expanded into Florida, Indiana, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Arizona, Alabama, and now beyond, opening both traditional campuses and hospital-based campuses. Today, the college says it operates 19 campuses across several states from what my research shows. The college is led by founder Greg Karshevsky, who serves as chancellor, and Stephen Lippach, an attorney who serves as the president. The school's public materials describe Mr. Litvak as part of the institution's leadership since the early years. Stephen Litvak is also somebody I've come into contact with via third party through their representatives and mine. Somebody that I submitted my grievance letter to and received a letter back from. Jersey College says its mission is to help bridge the nursing shortage by educating competent nurses and preparing them for the workforce. It emphasizes integrity, professionalism, and excellence throughout its published mission and values. This raises serious questions for me, because when I think about my story, that I completed approximately 1,500 plus hours of board-approved education and clinical training, I believe the next step would be NCLEX. Instead, my journey became about a score on an exit exam. Not technically failing that exit exam, not that exit exam showing I would flunk the NCLEX, I would do so poorly it's not even worth taking it. Just that I didn't have the best probability of passing the NCLEX the first time. It still showed that I had a good enough probability to pass the first time. I just didn't have the best probability, the highest probability they wanted, the most assurity. And I find that stunning, that my entire nursing education was chalked up to this exit exam. But in the same breath, we talk about integrity, professionalism, and getting nurses into the workforce. The placement of this college, this school I attended, was in a non-traditional setting, if you ask me. It was in a strip mall. And I wonder if this is a documented strategy. Was it meant to attract the most vulnerable of people? These are questions I ask, because I see in my research it's often criticized for its impact on minority and low-income communities. While the school is technically located in Ewing Township, it is often legally associated with Trenton because of its proximity and shared infrastructure. The historical ties of Ewing was originally part of Trenton Township before incorporating separately in 1834. Locals refer to it as the ghetto and design into Trenton. The term ghetto is frequently used by locals and critics to describe parts of Trenton, but sociologists often view this as a result of systemic economic shifts rather than a singular on-purpose design. There have been industrial collapses. Trenton was once a powerhouse with the motto, "Trenton makes, the world takes," when manufacturing steel, pottery, rubber. But this collapsed in mid-20th century. It left a massive economic void. Then became the concentrated poverty. Research shows that Trenton functions as a zone of concentrated poverty where median household incomes is approximately $35,402 a year, compared to the New Jersey state average of over $82,000 per year. So this shows what could be seen as a Hole effect. A suburban flight led to surrounding towns like parts of Ewing, Lawrence, Princeton, becoming wealthier, while Trenton faced disinvestment and declining property values. Also, there's safety realities. Trenton is consistently ranked among the most dangerous cities in the United States for its size, with a crime higher than 94% of other New Jersey communities. So I wonder, is there a systemic design? Is there reverse redlining happening? Geographic targeting, critics call this. Neighborhoods with a majority of Black or Latino populations are 75% to 110% more likely to have at least one for-profit school than other communities. Critics call this reverse redlining. the practice of flooding underserved areas with high-cost services rather than denying them. Critics also look into asset-light facilities, locating in the strip malls. For example, when I attended Jersey College of Nursing in Ewing, it was in a strip mall. It still is in the strip mall. Critics call this a big box retail space like the Ewing campus or the Northfield Center that allows for-profit schools to remain an asset light. They can quickly open, scale, or close based on market demand without the overhead of a traditional campus. Critics also argue that for-profit schools in general use aggressive recruitment. Institutions can often capitalize on the educational gospel, the promise that a degree is the only path out of poverty, to target low-income individuals and veterans with the allure of quick entry into the profession. Now, I have concerns regarding these outcomes and the debt included for these people. For-profit nursing programs are frequently scrutinized for their financial and academic impact on marginalized students. So for example, in total, I paid around $30,000 for the practical nursing program. Once I was to receive my license, then I was going to bridge over and do the RN program. That's how it was set up. So furthering my research to date, I understand that is way on the high end for a practical nursing program leading into an RN program. So knowing this now, I think about the debt disparity. For-profit schools are associated with much higher debt burdens, particularly at institutions with majority Black student populations. The NCLEX pass rates. Data suggests for-profit nursing schools often have a substantially lower NCLEX pass rate than the national licensing exam compared to often have a substantially lower NCLEX pass rate compared to public or nonprofit institutions, which makes me question why the exit exam was imposed as a gatekeeper through my understanding in the first place. If your school was so great, if it wasn't fragile, if there was no crack in the infrastructure, why do you need an exit exam to essentially keep students like myself from taking the NCLEX? If somebody like me can fracture the whole infrastructure, was it that strong from the beginning? Student complaints. Specific to Jersey College through my research, some students have reported paying upwards to $29,000 only to be repeatedly failed on final exams, which prevents them from sitting for the state licensing exam. Other complaints mention unorganized administration and misleading information regarding schedules. While Jersey College boasts about a 98% NCLEX pass rate, through my research and understanding, I have found about the low completion rate. This suggests that while the school is accessible, finishing the program itself is a major hurdle for many students. This data highlights a common pattern in the for-profit sector. Selective graduation questions arise. Some critics argue that for-profit schools filter students heavily during the program. Some say this is weeding out. Now, I totally understand not passing a course, but I think there's a difference between failing students on purpose and students not being able to pass the course. I think that's two different things. Only those most likely to pass the NCLEX are allowed to graduate, for example, which keeps the school's pass rates high and maintains their accreditation, even if the overall graduation remains low. This also brings up questions about outcome disparity. You may see a school with a 96% pass rate. You may see a school with a 96% NCLEX pass rate, for example, or a 34% graduation rate, for example. This means the school is successful at training the students who make it to the end. But 2/3 of the people who start the program may leave with debt and no degree, at maybe no fault of their own. Could it be by design? Critics argue. Is this a filtering strategy? Nursing schools are regulated by the New Jersey Board of Nursing for this example, but there's boards of nursing in every state. The Board of Nursing requires a certain percentage of graduates to pass the NCLEX on their first try to maintain the school's education. Keep the official pass rate high. Some schools will prevent students they deem at risk from ever becoming graduates to protect that. The result? By withholding your name and graduation status due to an exit exam like HESI, ATI, Kaplan, NLN, etc., the school ensures you never sit for the NCLEX. If you don't take it, you can't fail it, and their accreditation stats stay high. Even if their actual graduation rate is low, like 34%, for example, as previously discussed. So in the context of for-profit education, or a school being in a strip mall setting, and the exit exam preventing qualified nursing students from graduating, therefore taking their NCLEX, are parts of the same business strategy critics argue that have been designed to maximize profit while minimizing risk for the school, often at the student's expense. Maximizing profit, minimizing risk. Unlike lower overheads, unlike traditional colleges with dorms, sports complexes, large campuses, a strip mall allows a school to spend less on facilities and more on recruitment and marketing. Where is the money going to? Where is it being invested in? Is there a profit motive, I question? By minimizing physical costs into teachers, the school itself, the educational program, the right equipment to train the students. For-profit entities can maximize the revenue generated from student tuition, which is often funded by the federal student loans, which brings me back to my story as well. On my financial aid exit counseling, it says I graduated, but on my transcript, that isn't acknowledged. So as far as financial aid goes, I wonder if they are under the impression I graduated. I wonder if they know where the funds went to getting me this education, but ultimately not letting me enter my profession. If financial aid and the government paid for this education that is deemed complete by the Board of Nursing for me to sit for my NCLEX, how can Jersey College keep me from that profession, rightfully so? I wonder about protecting business stats via the exit exams. The State Board of Nursing and accreditors like the Council on Occupational Education, this is usually called COE. For my understanding and research, the practical nursing program itself at Ewing, when I attended, was accredited by the Board of Nursing and CO only. That is what I have found thus far. They use these NCLEX pass rates as the primary measure of the school's quality. So, if they are at accreditation risk, if their pass rate falls below a certain threshold, usually 80%, they risk losing their accreditation entirely. The federal funding. Loss of accreditation means the school can no longer accept Title IV federal financial aid FAFSA loans. For most for-profit schools, losing this funding would lead to immediate closure. So I wonder, why has nobody spoken up before? Or maybe not enough people. How do we stop this practice? How do we make this right? How do we get nurses into their profession and working? What does this mean for all of us that had financial aid, that have student loan debt? Now that the Trump administration has changed things regarding the student loans since July 1st, 2026, what does this mean for us, and how can we make this right? That's where we get into borrower's defense. Is that an option? Because critics also argue about the filter mechanism. Using a non-transcripted exit exam as a gatekeeper, the school prevents weaker students from ever taking the NCLEX, as we discussed. This ensures only those who have the most assurance to pass are counted in their official statistics. Protecting the school's ability to keep recruiting new students and collecting the federal aid money. But it costs students like myself our career. In my specific case, by withholding my name from the Board of Nursing, despite completing the board-approved program and what my financial aid paid for to enter my profession, I wonder if the school is protecting its brand. These are questions I ask. Is there a legal conflict? As noted, New Jersey law NJAC 1337-121 was specifically created to stop this arbitrary and capricious practice, in my opinion. It's written in black and white. Research it yourself. Draw your own conclusion. This isn't to say it was ever accepted, but that they were drawing a fine line, and absolutely not. You cannot do this. We will not tolerate this. We are troubled by this. I think about the systemic harm behind this. This goes way past myself. How many others are affected? How many students have paid for the education and completed the labor, their clinicals? Free labor, might I add. But the school is refusing to release the value of that later via your certification, your verification to the Board of Nursing to get your ATT, so they can keep their passing percentage near the 100% for future marketing. These are questions I ask. The NJAC 1337-121 explicitly states that a nursing program cannot use a standalone exit exam to withhold graduation to prevent you from taking the NCLEX. There are transcript withholding laws as well. New Jersey has moved to ban the practice of withholding transcript for many types of debt. For example, I have my unofficial transcript. When I tried to request my official transcript, that request was denied. More importantly, if your transcript shows you passed all your courses, the school cannot legally claim you haven't graduated because of an external benchmark that isn't part of the accredited program, especially the program that financial aid invested into. This is from my research, what I have gathered to my understanding. You can't have your cake and eat it too. And this is why I'm in court to figure this out. And I believe it's a fair question to ask. What about the administrative responsibility? Under NJAC 1337-121, the school has a regulatory duty to report your completion to the board. Falsely claiming you haven't finished could be considered professional misconduct by the school's administrators. These are questions I ask myself. What is the answer? Well, look at the system, how it's supposed to work versus how it does, and who benefits from the way it's designed. Questions and comments from the week? Edith says, I failed my ATI exit exam and passed my NCLEX on the first try. Congratulations. Ronnie says, I'm sorry. Do we not want our medical professionals to be able to pass their final exams? And I think this is where the misunderstanding lies. For me, the exit exam was not a final exam. I've already taken those exams. The exit exam is not on my transcript. It's not a part of any course. It's not an accredited piece of the program that I needed to sit for my NCLEX. Ultimately, through my viewing, it has nothing to do with me, but was imposed for the school's benefit, is how I see it. So, if the school just allowed me to take my NCLEX, and let's say I didn't pass it the first time, that's fine, because the Board of Nursing allows me to take it again, and so on. They even offer refresher courses. So the state doesn't need me to pass the NCLEX the first time. I don't need to do that. The school, however, is judged based on their NCLEX pass rates. So by imposing an exit exam and only allowing the students who do the best on these exit exams with the highest probability take their NCLEX, it gives the school a surety that their accreditation will not be at risk. If so many students do not pass their NCLEX the first time, they are at risk of probation or losing their accreditation. Now, I don't want the school to lose their accreditation, but I think there's a better way to protect the school and the student. Why are we only giving students a limited number attempt on these exit exams? Why are we saying, oh, well, if you don't pass, your nursing journey is over, we keep your money, you get nothing. We keep the reputation, you never take the NCLEX, we keep the money, you're in debt, etc. It shouldn't be like that. That doesn't sound fair, that doesn't sound sound, that doesn't sound like justice to me. Joshua Miller says, force nursing schools to post attrition rates so you can see, okay, so 98% of students passed the NCLEX, but only 60% got to take the NCLEX. Avoid. Exactly what this video went over. The actual completion rate of those who completed the nursing program versus how many actually ended up taking the NCLEX to keep that 98% NCLEX pass rate they could boast about, for example. Nancy says, I think that's illegal. And this is why I'm having this conversation. I feel like there's a better way to go about all of this, and I feel like it deserves to be remedied. Bibble says, it seems a lot of comments don't understand. You can pass your entire program with an A, but if you don't do well enough on the exit exam, they will not give you your ATT to take the boards. So even though you paid, technically graduated, passed everything you needed to, if you don't do great on this exit exam, it doesn't affect your grades. It just literally prevents you from entering your profession, even though you are qualified under the Board of Nursing's regulations to be qualified to sit for it. That is the argument. Marcia HG8 says, there has been a white paper out about this for years. Even the prep companies do not endorse using an exit exam. Yes, I agree, which we have discussed on here previously. So, the investigation continues, and I will keep diving in deeper because this just isn't right. Nothing about this feels right to me. Something is very wrong. And the fact that so many people have been affected by this, and yet these for-profit schools can walk away like everything's fine and they get everything and we get nothing, that just doesn't sound like justice to me. So, I will see you guys next week for our next episode. We're going to keep diving in deeper. Next week, I actually have something special in store. The appellate court has received all submissions to date. This means Jersey College of Nursing's representatives have submitted their initial brief. My side presented ours. Jersey College of Nursing has responded to those claims. Now we can actually get into what happened in court. So next week's video, we're gonna dive into what happened there and what it looks like. I can't wait to share with you what they said. I find it very interesting, the way they think. Bye, guys.